Hey there, welcome back to the channel. I'm so glad you're here for this deep dive into a book that has truly shifted the way many people look at their bank accounts and their brains. Today, we are beginning our journey through Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, Mastering the Inner Game of Wealth by Harv Eker. If this breakdown helps you in any way, please make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode when a new chapter is uploaded. About the author, Harv Eker. Before we jump into the meat of the book, we have to look at the man behind the message. Harv Eker wasn't born with a silver spoon. In fact, his early life was defined by the same yo-yo financial struggle that many of us face. Born in Toronto, Canada, Eker immigrated to the United States as a young man. He started over a dozen different businesses, but no matter how hard he worked, he just couldn't seem to make it long-term. He would make money, then lose it. He was a success one day and broke the next. The turning point came when he received a piece of advice from a wealthy friend of his father. The advice was simple. If you aren't doing as well as you'd like, all that means is there is something you don't know. Eker began obsessively studying the psychology of wealth. He realized that his inner thermostat was set for failure. He eventually opened one of the first fitness retail stores in North America and grew it into a massive success. Using the principles he discovered, he sold the business and became a multimillionaire, eventually founding Peak Potentials Training, one of the fastest growing personal development companies in the world. Now let's dive into the first part of his masterpiece. Chapter 1, Your Money Blueprint. In this opening chapter, Eker introduces the core thesis of the entire book, your financial blueprint. He argues that it doesn't matter how much you know about marketing, real estate, or stocks. If your internal blueprint isn't set for success, you will never hold on to wealth. The manifestation process. Eker introduces a formula that dictates how we create our reality and our bank accounts. T, thoughts. Your thoughts lead to F, feelings. Your feelings lead to A, actions. Your actions lead to R, results. Your results. Everything begins with your programming. Eker explains that we are programmed in three primary ways. 1. Verbal programming. What did you hear when you were young? Money is the root of all evil, and then we can't afford that. 2. Modeling. What did you see when you were young? Were your parents spenders or savers? 3. Specific incidents. What emotional experiences did you have around money? The thermostat analogy. Eker uses a brilliant analogy regarding a room's temperature. If the thermostat is set to 72 degrees and it gets cold outside, the heater kicks in to bring it back to 72. If it gets hot outside, the ache kicks in to bring it back to 72. Most people have a financial thermostat set to broke, middle class, or just enough to get by. When these people get a windfall of money like winning the lottery, their internal AC kicks in and they cool off that wealth by spending it until they return to their comfort zone. Conversely, a self-made millionaire like Donald Trump might lose his money, but because his thermostat is set to billions, he quickly makes it back. The roots create the fruits. Imagine a tree. If the fruit, your results/money, isn't good, you don't try to change the fruit. You have to go underground and change the roots, your subconscious mind. Eker emphasizes that we live in at least 4 different realms at once: the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. The physical world, your bank account, is merely a printout of the other 3. Disclaimer, I have learned some of these insights based on my own interpretation and have adapted them from the author's original text. What I've learned from Chapter 1. Reading this chapter was a wake-up call for me personally. Here are the 3 big takeaways I've integrated into my own life. The power of awareness. I realized that I was still carrying around my parents' fear of debt. Even when an investment made sense, I would feel a tightness in my chest. Now that I know it's just my verbal programming talking, I can choose to ignore it. The concept of declarations. Eker suggests doing physical declarations, placing your hand on your heart and then your head. While it felt silly at first, I learned that it's about physically anchoring a new thought pattern into the body, not just the mind. Investing in silence. As you know, I am currently investing for my children's future. One of my biggest learned lessons here is that blueprints are contagious. By changing my blueprint now, I am silently changing theirs. Eker mentions that we often rebel against our parents' blueprint or mirror it. By keeping my specific investment goals for them private until they are 25, I am allowing them to develop their own relationship with work and value, while I secretly ensure their roots are well fed for the future. This chapter teaches us that we aren't just unlucky, we are simply operating on an old software. To get new results, we need a system update. Chapter 2, The Wealth Files. Part 1 in Chapter 2, Harv Eker moves from the theoretical concept of the financial blueprint into the practical differences between how the rich, the middle class, and the poor all process the world. He introduces the first of his 17 wealth files. These are essentially software files stored in your mental cabinet. When a financial opportunity or crisis arises, your brain goes to its cabinet, pulls out a file, and dictates your reaction. The core argument here is that rich people have different files than poor people. If you want to change your results, you have to replace your poverty files with wealth files. Wealth File 1. Rich people believe I create my life. Poor people believe life happens to me. Eker identifies this as the most fundamental distinction. If you want to create wealth, you must believe that you are at the steering wheel of your life, especially your financial life. He notes that poor people, referring to a mindset, not necessarily current bank balance, often play the role of the victim. You can always tell a victim by 3 distinct clues. 1. Blame. They blame the economy, the government, their boss, or their spouse for their lack of success. 2. Justifying. They justify their situation by saying things like, money isn't really that important. Eker is blunt here. If you say your spouse isn't important, they won't be with you for long. The same applies to money. 3. Complaining. Eker calls complaining a crap magnet. When you complain, you are focusing on what is wrong, and according to the law of attraction, what you focus on expands. Wealth File 2. Rich people play the money game to win. Poor people play the money game to not lose. Most people play defense rather than offense. If your goal is simply to be comfortable or to pay the bills, you will likely never get rich. Eker explains that the comfort level usually results in just enough to survive, but never enough to thrive. Rich people aim for abundance. Their goal is massive wealth. There is a massive psychological difference between aiming for the stars and aiming for the ceiling. If you aim for the stars, you'll at least hit the moon. If you aim for the ceiling, you might just hit the floor. Wealth File 3. Rich people are committed to being rich. Poor people want to be rich. Everyone wants more money. Money. But Eker distinguishes between 3 levels of wanting. 1. I want to be rich. This is a passive wish. 2. I choose to be rich. This involves a decision but still lacks full weight. 3. I commit to being rich. This means holding nothing back. It means giving 100% of your effort and focus. Most people have mixed files regarding wealth. They want the money, but their subconscious says, I'll have to work too hard, or people will only like me for my money. These internal contradictions prevent the universe and your own mind from working toward the goal. Commitment means removing the exit doors and doing whatever it takes within ethics and law to reach the objective. Wealth File 4. Rich people think big. Poor people think small. Eker introduces the law of income. You will be paid in direct proportion to the value you deliver according to the marketplace. Thinking big is about the number of people you serve. If you only help 10 people, you will earn a 10-person income. If you help 10,000 people, you will earn a 10,000-person income. Most people think small because they are afraid of failure or feel unworthy. Eker challenges the reader to be a player rather than a spectator. He argues that the world doesn't need more people playing small. It needs people who are willing to share their gifts on a massive scale. What I've learned from Chapter 2, reflecting on these first 4 wealth laws, I've realized how much our daily vocabulary betrays our internal programming. Here is how I am applying these lessons. Eliminating the victim language. I've started monitoring my internal monologue for the blame, justify, complain trio. I realized that even venting about the market or inflation was a form of victimhood. By taking 100% responsibility, I feel more powerful. I no longer feel like I am waiting for the economy to allow me to be successful. Shifting from comfort to abundance. This was a major shift for me. For a long time, my mental target was just to have no debt. Once I reached that, my growth stalled because I had hit my target. Based on Eker's teaching, I've reset my target to a specific high net worth number. Now that the target has moved, my brain is finding new ways to generate income that I didn't see before. The weight of commitment. I used to say I'm trying to build wealth. Eker's distinction between trying and committing is profound. Commitment means there is no plan B where I remain average. The responsibility of value. As I mentioned before, I am building a legacy for my children. Learning about thinking big has changed how I view my professional work. Instead of just doing my job, I am looking for ways to scale the value I provide. If I want my children to have a millionaire mind, I have to model a life that prioritizes service to thousands, not just a few. It's not just about the money, it's about the reach. The money isn't important, trap. I've caught myself using this phrase in the past to feel superior or spiritual. Walker's analogy about a spouse really hit home. I've learned to treat money with the respect it deserves as a tool, not as a bond, but as a vital part of a functioning, impactful life. By replacing the files of I can't and it's not my fault with I am responsible and I will provide massive value, the path toward wealth feels less like a mystery and more like a mathematical certainty. Chapter 3, The Wealth Files. Part 2, Files 5, 9. In this section of the book, Harv Eker continues to dismantle the mental barriers that keep people in financial mediocrity. If the previous files were about your internal stance, these files focus on how you interact with the world, opportunities, and other people. Wealth File 5. Rich people focus on opportunities. Poor people focus on obstacles. This file is all about perspective. When an opportunity arises, rich people see potential growth, rewards, and how it can work. Poor people, however, see potential loss, risks, and why it won't work. Eker explains that this isn't just about positive thinking, it's about intent. Because rich people expect to succeed, they are willing to take calculated risks. They research, do their due diligence, and then make decisions based on facts. Poor people expecting to fail often hesitate. They spend so much time preparing or waiting for the perfect moment that the opportunity passes them by. Eker's mantra here is ready, fire, aim. You get in the game with what you have from where you are, and you adjust your aim as you go. Wealth File 6. Rich people admire other rich and successful people. Poor people resent rich and successful people. This is a massive psychological hurdle for many. Eker points out that if you view rich people as greedy, evil, or lucky, and you simultaneously want to be good, you will subconsciously prevent yourself from ever becoming rich. You cannot become what you despise. Eker shares a story of how he used to see a beautiful car and think, what a jerk, purely based on the driver's wealth. He realized that this resentment was a barrier to his own success. He teaches a Huna philosophy, bless that which you want. If you see a person with a beautiful home or a thriving business, bless the person and bless the home. This signals to your subconscious that wealth is a good thing and that you are allowed to have it too. Wealth File 7. Rich people associate with positive, successful people. Poor people associate with negative or unsuccessful people. Energy is contagious. Eker argues that successful people look at other successful people as a means of motivation and a blueprint for success. They ask, if they can do it, I can do it. Poor people, on the other hand, often feel uncomfortable around highly successful individuals. They fear being judged or feel they don't belong, so they seek out the company of those who validate their current, often negative situation. Eker suggests that instead of mocking the rich, we should model them. Instead of shying away from them, we should get to know them. Wealthy people are usually thrilled to share their strategies with those who are truly committed. Wealth File 8. Rich people are willing to promote themselves and their value. Poor people think negatively about selling and promotion. This is one of the most common wealth killers. Many people feel that selling is beneath them, or that if they are good enough, the world will magically find them. Eker is very clear. If you don't let people know what you have to offer, you won't make any money. Resentment toward promotion usually comes from a past bad experience, a pushy salesperson, or a fear of rejection. However, rich people are usually leaders, and all great leaders are great promoters. They believe in their product, their service, and themselves. If you truly believe that what you have can help people, it is your duty to promote it to as many people as possible. Wealth File 9. Rich people are bigger than their problems. Poor people are smaller than their problems. The road to wealth is filled with traps and pitfalls. Most people try to avoid problems because they feel overwhelmed by them. Eker explains that the secret to success is not to try to avoid or get rid of your problems. The secret is to grow yourself so that you are bigger than any problem. Imagine a level 10 problem. If you are a level 2 person, that problem looks like a mountain. But if you grow yourself into a level 10 person, that same problem becomes a minor level 2 inconvenience. The focus should never be on the size of the problem, but on the size of you. What I've learned from Chapter 3. The lessons in these 5 wealth files have significantly altered how I navigate my daily life and my long-term financial planning. Here's my breakdown of what I've integrated. The ready, fire, aim philosophy. I used to suffer from analysis paralysis. I wanted every single detail of my investment strategy to be perfect before I started. After reading Eker's take on File 5, I realized that I was just masking my fear of obstacles. I've learned to take action once I have the essential information, knowing I can pivot and aim better once I am actually in the market. The art of blessing wealth. This was a major internal shift. I've started consciously practicing blessing that which I want. When I see someone with the kind of financial freedom I'm building for my family, I genuinely feel happy for them. This has removed a layer of guilt I didn't even know I had about accumulating wealth. It makes the pursuit of money feel like a positive, virtuous path rather than a selfish one. Audit of my inner circle. I've become much more protective of my mental environment. While I don't abandon friends, I have learned to limit my time with people who constantly complain or focus on why things won't work. Conversely, I've sought out communities of investors and growth-minded individuals. I've learned that my blueprint is constantly being influenced by the 5 people I spend the most time with. Self-promotion as service. This was a hard one for me. I used to think that talking about my successes or my skills was bragging. Eker helped me see that if I have a solution that can help someone or a strategy that can build wealth, withholding that information is actually doing a disservice to others. I've learned to speak about my value with confidence rather than apology. Problem size awareness. Now, when I face a financial setback or a business challenge, I don't ask, why is this happening? Instead, I ask, how can I grow to handle this? I've learned to see problems as a barometer for my own personal growth. If a problem feels huge, it's a sign that I have some internal growing to do. The silent legacy, applying File 7, associating with success, is part of why I am keeping my children's investment a secret until they are 25. I want them to associate with the success of their own hard work first. I want them to grow to be level 10 people on their own merit. By the time they receive their inheritance, they won't be smaller than the money. Money. They will have grown enough to handle the responsibility that comes with it. Chapter 4, The Wealth Files. Part 3, Files 10, 13. In this segment of Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, Harv Eker shifts the focus toward the internal mechanics of how we handle money once it starts flowing and how we view our own value. These 4 wealth files are critical because they address the container, your ability to hold on to and manage the wealth you attract. Wealth File 10. Rich people are excellent receivers. Poor people are poor receivers. Eker argues that the number one reason most people don't reach their full financial potential is that they are poor receivers. This usually stems from a sense of unworthiness. Many of us grew up hearing it's better to give than to receive, but Eker points out the logical flaw. For there to be a giver, there must be a receiver. If you refuse to receive, you are actually insulting the person who wants to give to you. He suggests that your worthiness is a story you made up. If you say you are worthy, you are. If you say you're not, you're not. Either way, you will live into your story. Rich people are willing to accept praise, money, and opportunities with a simple thank you. Poor people often try to deflect or downplay their successes, which tells the universe they aren't ready for more. Wealth Fail 11. Rich people choose to get paid based on results. Poor people choose to get paid based on time. This is a fundamental shift in economic philosophy. Poor people prefer a steady salary or hourly wage because it provides security. However, Eker warns that security comes at a price: wealth. When you trade your time for money, you are limited by the fact that you only have 24 hours in a day. You have essentially put a ceiling on your income. Rich people, conversely, prefer to be paid based on the results they produce. They use commissions, percentages, or business ownership. They bet on themselves. They know that while there is no guaranteed floor, there is also no ceiling. They understand that in the marketplace, value, not time, is the currency of wealth. Wealth File 12. Rich people think both. Poor people think either or. Poor and middle-class people live in a world of scarcity and limitations. They believe they have to choose. You can be rich, or you can be a good person. You can have a great career, or a great family life. You can have money, or you can be spiritual. Eker calls this either-or thinking a major mental block. Rich people live in a world of abundance. They ask, how can I have both? They don't see why they can't be a kind, spiritual, family-oriented person who also happens to be fabulously wealthy. This mindset allows them to seek creative solutions that satisfy multiple areas of their life simultaneously, rather than sacrificing one for the other. Wealth File 13. Rich people focus on their net worth. Poor people focus on their working income. The true measure of wealth is not how much you earn, but your net worth. Eker identifies the 4 factors of net worth. 1. Income, both working income, active, and passive income. 2. Savings, the portion of income you keep. 3. Investments, growing your savings through capital appreciation. 4. Simplification, reducing your cost of living so you have more to invest. While poor people focus almost exclusively on working income, their paycheck, rich people understand that a paycheck is just one part of the equation. They work to increase all 4 pillars, especially investments and passive income, to build a self-sustaining financial ecosystem. What I've learned from Chapter 4. Integrating these specific wealth files has been a game changer for my perspective on self-worth and financial structure. Here is how I'm applying what I've learned. Becoming an excellent receiver. I've stopped deflecting compliments. When someone praises my work, I simply say thank you instead of explaining why it wasn't that big of a deal. I've learned that by accepting praise and money gracefully, I am telling my subconscious that I am a person who is open to abundance. The transition from time to results. While I still have active work, I have started shifting my mindset toward results-based income. I am looking for ways to create assets, like my investment portfolio, that pay me based on the value they provide to the market, rather than the hours I sit at a desk. This is why I am so focused on the children's 25th birthday fund. It is an exercise in results-based growth. Rejecting the either-or myth. I used to feel a bit of guilt about being highly focused on money, as if it would make me a less present parent. Eker's both philosophy taught me that by being wealthy, I can actually be a better parent because I have the resources to provide experiences and security that I wouldn't have otherwise. I can have a massive heart and a massive bank account. The net worth audit. I've moved away from just checking my monthly bank balance to tracking my total net worth. This includes looking at simplification. I've realized that by simplifying my own lifestyle, I can accelerate the growth of the trust for my kids. It's not about deprivation. It's about choosing where my value is stored. Modeling for the future. Even though my children don't know about their future gift, I am modeling both thinking for them every day. I want them to see a parent who works hard, but also enjoys life, who is generous, but also disciplined. By the time they turn 25, they will have seen a living example of someone who focuses on net worth and results, making them ready to handle the wealth files I am building for them. Chapter 5. The Wealth Files, Part 4, Files 14-17. In this final section of the Wealth Files, Harv Eker discusses the logistics of wealth, how you manage what you have, how you make it grow without your physical presence, and the courage required to keep going. These files are the bridge between having a wealthy mind and having wealthy habits. Wealth File 14. Rich people manage their money well. Poor people mismanage their money well. Eker is quick to dispel the myth that rich people are smarter than poor people. They simply have different, more supportive money habits. Many people say, when I have lots of money, I'll start managing it. Eker argues the opposite. Until you show you can handle what you've got, you won't get any more. He introduces the money management system, which involves dividing your income into specific jars or accounts. 10% Financial Freedom Account, FFA. This money is never, ever spent. It is used only for investments that will produce passive income. 10% Play Account. This is for spoiling yourself. Eker insists on this because our inner spirit needs to feel the reward of our hard work to stay motivated. 10% Long-term savings for spending, for big purchases or emergencies. 10% Education, for books, seminars, and coaching. 10% Give, for charity or helping others. 50% Necessities, for rent, food, and bills. The habit of managing the money is far more important than the amount. Wealth File 15. Rich people have their money work hard for them. Poor people work hard for their money. While hard work is important, Eker clarifies that hard work alone will never make you rich. If it did, the hardest workers in the world would be the wealthiest. Rich people understand that work is a temporary solution to a long-term goal. Passive income. The goal is to become financially free, which Eker defines as the ability to live the lifestyle you desire without having to work or rely on anyone else for money. This comes from two main sources. 1. Money working for you. Income from investments, stocks, bonds, etc. 2. Business working for you, so ongoing income from businesses where you don't need to be personally involved. Rental properties, royalties, automated businesses. Wealth File 16. Rich people act in spite of fear. Poor people let fear stop them. This is arguably the most important file for taking the leap into wealth. Fear, doubt, and worry are among the greatest obstacles to success. Eker points out that you don't need to get rid of fear to succeed. Instead, you must practice acting in spite of it. He defines the comfort zone as the wealth zone. If you are only willing to do what is easy, life will be hard. But if you are willing to do what is hard, life will be easy. Rich people are willing to be uncomfortable because they know that growth happens at the edge of their boundaries. Wealth File 17. Rich people constantly learn and grow. Poor people think they already know. Eker observes that poor people are often trying to prove they are right. They act as if their financial situation is just a stroke of bad luck. Rich people, however, take the stance of a student. They know that if you are not growing, you are dying. Success is a learnable skill. You can learn to succeed at anything, including money. Eker emphasizes that the fastest way to get rich and stay rich is to work on developing yourself. Your outer world, wealth, will always be a reflection of your inner world, character, mind, and skills. What I've learned from Chapter 5. This concluding section on the wealth files has provided me with the structural blueprint I needed to turn my philosophy into a physical reality. Here are my key takeaways. The power of the FFA, Financial Freedom Account. I've implemented the JAR system, specifically the 10% for the FFA. Seeing that money grow purely for the purpose of future freedom has shifted my mindset from saving for a rainy day to investing for a sunny life. This is exactly where the funds for my children are being cultivated. The Play Account, necessity. I used to feel guilty spending money on myself when I knew I should be saving for the kids. Eker's Play Account lesson taught me that by letting myself enjoy some of the money now, I prevent burnout and rebellion from my subconscious. It makes the journey of wealth building sustainable. Redefining hard work. I've stopped wearing busyness as a badge of honor. I now ask myself, is this activity moving me toward passive income, or is it just trading time for money? This has led me to focus more on long-term assets rather than just short-term gains. Taming the cranky mind. When I feel fear about a new investment or a big financial move, I now recognize it as my internal thermostat trying to keep me in my comfort zone. I've learned that the feeling of discomfort is actually a signal that I am expanding my wealth zone. The student mindset. I've committed to the 10% education jar. By constantly reading and learning, like we are doing with this book deep dive, I am ensuring that I stay bigger than my problems. The 25th birthday strategy. This section reinforced why I am keeping the investment secret. If I gave them the money now, they might have the funds, but they wouldn't have the management habits. By waiting until they are 25, I am giving them time to develop their own Wealth File 14 through their own early adult experiences. They will be ready to manage the roots I've planted for them. That concludes our chapter-by-chapter journey through the 17 Wealth Final Summary. What the heck do I do now? Harv Eker concludes his book with a powerful call to action. He asserts that reading this book is a great first step, but knowing is not the same as doing. It is truly master the inner game of wealth. You must bridge the gap between your mental blueprint and your physical reality. The final section focuses on integration. Eker emphasizes that your old files are still in your mental cabinet, and they are very stubborn. To replace them, you must engage in constant repetition and physical action. He suggests that for the next 30 days, you should reread your wealth files and perform your declarations every single morning and evening. The 3 steps to transformation. 1. Awareness. You cannot change something unless you know it exists. You must monitor your thoughts like a hawk. Every time you blame, justify, or complain, you must stop and cancel that thought. 2. Understanding. Realize that your current way of thinking originated from outside sources, parents, teachers, media, and is not necessarily you or the truth. 3. Reconditioning. This is where the JARS system and the declarations come in. By physically managing your money and vocally claiming your new blueprint, you hardwire these millionaire secrets into your subconscious. Eker's final message is one of empowerment. Wealth is a skill that can be learned. You are not stuck with the financial results you have today unless you choose to keep the mind you have today. What I've learned from the conclusion. The ending of this book really hammered home the idea that wealth is a practice, not a destination. Here are my final takeaways. The power of consistency. I've learned that a millionaire mind isn't built in a weekend seminar. It's built in the small, daily choices to act in spite of fear and to manage every dollar that comes in. The 30-day rule. I've committed to the 30-day integration period. I've realized that my old software is always looking for a way to reinstall itself. By being hyper-vigilant for a month, I am setting a new default for my brain. Legacy as education. This journey has reinforced my decision regarding my children. Eker says the best way to help the poor is to not be one of them. By mastering my own inner game, I am providing my children with a blueprint of success. When they turn 25 and receive the fruit of these investments, they won't just be receiving money. They will be receiving it from a parent who modeled the character and discipline required to keep it. Action is the only currency. I've learned that I can have all the manifestation thoughts I want, but without the action part of the formula, T, right arrow F, right arrow A is burn, the result will always be 0. I am now focused on being a man of action. Thank you for listening to this deep dive into Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. This journey is all about growing together and shifting our mindsets to reach the levels of abundance we deserve. Please subscribe, like, share, and hit that bell notification so you never miss an update as we continue to explore the books that change lives. See you in the next one.